Joining me now, former Pentagon official, Fox News national security analyst, KT McFarland. KT, great to have you here.
Good to be with you.
Let's start with sanctions. Imposing sanctions against individuals and companies for the actions of the Chinese government.
What does that mean? You know, first of all, Obama doesn't like to put on sanctions. So whatever sanctions he puts on are probably not going to be effective at all. And they're certainly not going to be very tough. The other sanctions he's put on, whether it was on Russia or it was on Iran, he didn't want to do that. Congress forced his hand. And then once the sanctions were on, he couldn't wait to lift them. So I think the president just is unlikely to put up any serious sanctions that will make any difference to the Chinese. And he's certainly not going to do that to ruin the party he's planning in September with the Chinese president.
And much they have to party about, going to share, China and Russia, intelligence. Isn't that lovely? Did you suppose the Obama national security apparatus, if there is such a thing, do you suppose that caught them by surprise?
It probably did, and it shouldn't have. Why? Because, you know, since the Cold War, we have been trying to separate the Chinese from the Russians. The Nixon administration separated China from Russia, made friends with China. We still had Russia in the Cold War. Reagan's objective was to take Russia out of the equation. That worked as well. So then we were the sole superpower. Now we've seen both countries get together. And I think what's also, interestingly, with regard to the Hillary Clinton emails, I've seen some intelligence reports or from intelligence experts who've said that, well, the Chinese and the Russians, probably the Iranians, hacked into her computer and into her emails early on. So there is a likelihood that they were reading her emails, her incoming and outgoing emails, in real time as we were sitting down to negotiate with them.
Did you say the Iranians?
As well as the Iranians.
One would have to believe it with almost complete assurance that the Russians and the Chinese would have hacked into her whatever computers were accessible. All of that information compromised.
Sure.
And there seems to be, in the part of this administration, no hurry to prosecute, to bring her to the same justice as David Petraeus, who some argue committed a lesser crime, at least in terms of its impact on national security, than she has done.
Well, but just think about this. While Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, what would she have received? What is the U.S. negotiating position with regard to Russia if Russia does something to Ukraine? What's the U.S. negotiating position if there's a red line in Syria? If they were reading her emails in real time, no wonder we've cut such bad deals for the last 8 years. It's because they knew where we were standing, where we would go, what our negotiating position was going into any negotiation.
I can assure you there are millions and millions of Americans who would like to believe that was the reason for the miserable negotiating results on the part of this administration with the Iranians. Certainly part of it.
I'm sure it's part of it, but it reflects President Obama's worldview, which is the United States should not be the world superpower. We should lead from behind, but really what we should do is step back and let the global community somehow take over, not understanding that if we step behind, it isn't the global community that steps forward, it's chaos.
Yeah. And Russia.
Or Russia, or China, or Iran.
Thank you very much, KT.
Thanks.